Alright, what's going on, guys? Now, for a while on the channel, I've neglected to talk about Bloodborne in a lengthy capacity, primarily due to the fact that there's been so much to talk about in regards to Elden Ring, but it's almost like clockwork that Bloodborne hype starts to pop up again, and it starts trending on Twitter normally around the time of PlayStation showcases, because everybody wants to know, when are we gonna get the next installment of Bloodborne? And surprisingly, over the last 6 months or so, there's been some interesting developments that reignited the sparks of hope in a lot of people that wanted a Bloodborne 2 or a Bloodborne Remastered, and I'm going to get you up to speed on all of that. However, we're going to take a look at the situation as a whole and try to analyze this from an objective view, because while I am an optimist, in light of recent events, it's hard for me to say that I think a Bloodborne 2 or a Bloodborne Remastered is coming. But as we get into it today, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date on all things FromSoftware. The channel's getting pretty close to 60k, and that is a milestone I've been chasing for a while. But with that, let's get into it. Before we talk about the real verdict of this situation, I need to get you caught up on all the context of what's happened recently. Now, we're not going to go back more than a year or so, but I'm sure if you've been keeping up with the channel for a while, back before even Elden Ring dropped, you would have seen a lot of supposed Bloodborne leaks going around almost on a weekly basis. Now, I made a video covering every single one of those and debunking them, but the most important thing that came out of that whole segment was that the most trusted FromSoftware leaker named Omnipotent, who accurately leaked Sekiro, the Demon Souls remake, and Elden Ring, said that he had no information at all about a Bloodborne project going on at FromSoftware. Now, despite that statement, there were a lot of people who still sought to believe the leaks. But every time one of those predicted that the game would show up at a PlayStation showcase, even if the supposed leak did predict the PlayStation showcase actually happening, we obviously never saw that come to fruition. So it did appear like, just like everything else Omnipotent said, he was right in that situation. But there was one thing that came out around that time that really shook up the whole sphere of Bloodborne rumors, and it did possibly align with what Omnipotent said, that FromSoftware themselves weren't working on a Bloodborne project, but that potentially something else was going on. And this rumor came from Colin Moriarty, who has very big ties to PlayStation and Sony, and now owns Last Stand Media. But he shook up the entire Bloodborne scene when he put out a tweet on October 4th of last year, claiming that he was hearing that Bluepoint Games, the team and company who made the Demon Souls remake for PS5, were going to be working on a Bloodborne project. Now, this tweet completely blew up the entire FromSoftware scene, getting everybody's hopes up and all eyes watching Twitter and the next few PlayStation showcases. But the crazy part about this whole situation was that he elaborated and stated that he was told that Bluepoint is working on both a Bloodborne Remaster for PS5 and an entire Bloodborne sequel. Now, this got a lot of people up in arms saying, well, how is there going to be a Bloodborne sequel if Omnipotent just said that FromSoftware had nothing going on with Bloodborne whatsoever? Well, here's the thing. FromSoftware doesn't actually own the rights to Bloodborne. Even though they're the ones that made the game, they're not the ones that have a say in what goes on with the IP. That's all up to Sony. So if Sony wanted to export the Bloodborne IP to Bluepoint Games, they have every right to do that. So if Bluepoint was actually working on a Bloodborne project, and FromSoftware wasn't involved whatsoever, that would allow both Omnipotent and Colin Moriarty to be correct at the same time. But after this whole debacle happened, there was a bit of silence for a little bit, and conversations started popping up about whether or not Colin Moriarty was telling the truth or lying. PlayStation showcases came and went with no news of Bloodborne whatsoever, but then something very unexpected happened. Sony announced that they were going to be acquiring Bluepoint Games themselves, and this meant that now the IP holder of Bloodborne and the studio rumored to be working on the remaster and sequel now met the requirements for the rumors. Things were starting to look very fishy, and Bloodborne was trending over on Twitter nearly every few days. But then that was it. There were no whispers, no rumors, nothing going on related to Bloodborne for almost a year, and so the hope began to dwindle quite a bit. And then we finally heard some talk again, this time coming from Colin Moriarty, addressing the situation around Bloodborne.
But they are. But yeah, when you think about the different studios, we don't really know what anyone's doing. So there's a lot to say. Like Sucker Punch, we have no idea what they're doing. Naughty Dog, we have no idea what they're doing. Bend is obviously early on their stuff. Japan Studio doesn't exist anymore, but we have Asobi over there. Polyphony just did something. Guerrilla just released their game, but they're presumably working on something else. There's a lot. Plus the new studios, Fire Sprite. Yeah, Bluepoint. With Bluepoint, I've been talking to someone reliable who's like, no, man, the Bluepoint isn't making that like anything to do with Demon Souls or Bloodborne or anything like the Souls games at all. And I was like, really? So now I'm second guessing where that game is going to come, like if that game is coming, because I think it is, you know, like a Bloodborne remaster and all of that. So, and what I had heard is that it is. So I don't know anymore about that. I'm totally confused. I might be wrong about that. But there's so much mystery, and because we have, I don't know, I'm very satisfied with this back catalog of games that I have right now. I can probably play games for the rest of my life and nothing new would ever come out, and it wouldn't be maybe ideal, but you would find a way. I find it quite exciting that we don't know much. And what's exciting is that the longer it goes, the more it pushes it.
So the silence around the whole Bloodborne situation even got to the source of the rumor as a whole, to where he's not even sure if the game is in production at Bluepoint or not, which is at a point where the more you think about it, the stranger it gets. But one thing a lot of people are asking for, aside from a Bloodborne 2 or a Bloodborne Remastered, is a Bloodborne PC port. And as you can tell, it is something that Bloodborne desperately needs because it's still currently locked at 30 FPS, and definitely is showing its age. So if it did come to PC, it would then be in the hands of modders who can improve the game's quality tenfold on their own. But let's analyze the situation around that for a minute. It's no secret if you've been keeping up with the news that Sony is looking to make their way into the PC market. They've been porting over lots of games recently, including big titles like God of War and Spider-Man, and a lot of people have been catching on to the fact that some of these titles come from the PlayStation Hits section, which is a collection of games offered for free for PlayStation Plus users, and of course on that list is Bloodborne. Now there have been rumors going around that PlayStation may be making their own PC games launcher, however there's not a whole lot of credibility to that at the moment. Now Bloodborne did undergo an update recently, but it wasn't anything more than server maintenance, and with that alone being enough to set the Bloodborne trend into motion over on Twitter, I think that more than shows the demand for a Bloodborne 2, a Bloodborne Remaster, or even a Bloodborne PC port is there. And with the news that just broke that Sony and Tencent increased their shares of stake in FromSoftware, I don't think there's any possibility whatsoever that they don't know how much people want more of this game. And so it raises the question, why won't Sony do it? And I gotta say, honestly, there's no logical answer. From a business perspective, it makes no sense. There's so much demand here that they could basically do anything they want, price it however they want, and people would buy every last bit. They're sitting on a money machine. And even if we think about it in the order of FromSoftware's catalog, Bloodborne is up next to get the remaster treatment. We've had the Dark Souls 2 remaster, we've had the Dark Souls 1 remaster, and we've had the Demon's Souls remaster. Everything is aligned for this game to make a comeback. And we saw just how much of a hype machine Elden Ring was. All eyes are waiting and watching to see what the future holds for FromSoftware. We've even seen Activision trying to market Sekiro again to tap into that Elden Ring hype a little bit, but we've seen nothing from Sony. Honestly, the situation as a whole is just too perfect for them not to, and yet here we are. And so honestly, that's what's got me the most confused. That's what spurs my doubt more than anything. We've even seen the hype they're generating around God of War, and if they were to announce something Bloodborne related, they could completely dominate 2022. So I think the fact that we're not seeing more of Bloodborne is the worst sign of all. But that's just my opinion on it. I would hope more than anything that I'm wrong. But you guys know that I like to keep the hype alive here on the channel, but more than that, I like to keep it real with y'all. And at the moment, for everybody that wants more of Bloodborne, I don't have an answer. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think Sony has something in store for Bloodborne? Or do you think we're all just clinging on to a dream that isn't going to come true? Either way though guys, that's going to pretty much do it for the video today. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new around here. Obviously, if we hear anything in the Bloodborne sphere going forward, I'm going to keep you up to date on that here on the channel. But until that time comes, I'll see you in the next one.